Hi everybody, today it is time for an unhaul. I did one of these relatively recently, I think in maybe like May or something. It does not feel like that, it feels like forever ago, but you know, here we are. A couple things. One, I am covered in bug bites on my legs and I'm just like, it's bad guys, it's bad, and I'm just scratching ruthlessly. So if you see me like clawing at myself, that's why. And these are just books that I either didn't like or just like I'm never gonna read them again, or just I just don't, I will never read them if I haven't already. Plus I can go get some money for these at my used bookstore and then use that money for more books. Logic. So the first two books I'm going to be unhauling. Oh, and by the way, you guys can convince me otherwise. If you say down in the comments, this is your favorite book ever, it's the best thing you've ever read, please tell me. And I'll decide whether or not to keep it based on you. So you can persuade me. Some of these I'm dead set on though. I just, meh. So the first two are the second and third book in the Graceling Companion series, Fire and Bitter Blue. I have tried to read Fire on multiple occasions. I read Graceling and gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I love Graceling. And then I cannot get into this. And then, you know, I'm flipping through it, I know, and I'm like reading a couple of the lines. The characters kind of seem annoying. Plus, it's not about the same characters that were in the Graceling series, which Katza and Poe, and I love them more than anything. And I found out that this wasn't about them, so I was pretty sad. And these are about characters I don't necessarily care about. Plus, they're just really big, taking up a lot of space, and like there's so many things that I'd rather read. I am not positive about these. I'm still thinking about them, so you can probably persuade me otherwise on those, but I just don't really want to. The next book I'm unhauling is The Weight of Water by Sarah Crossman, and I gave this book 2 stars. It should have been more like a 1.5. The only reason why it wasn't a 0 is because it was written in verse, and I really like the cover. But this book I bought off Book Outlet. I was very intrigued by the cover, and then I found out it was a book in verse, and it has blue font, which is really nice. But I hated this book. Like, the characters, like, it seemed like there was 800 different plots going on. Like, nothing was focused. It was all just so many different problems that kept not getting solved, so I kept being confused. It was just, I really didn't like this book. I seriously didn't. So I'm dead set on getting rid of this, which it sucks because it's really pretty, but I hate it. So, and the next one I'm getting rid of it. I'm putting my foot down. I've almost done it a million times, but it's Incarceron by Catherine Fisher. And my mother read this one, and then she went to the library to get the sequel, and she says it's one of the best books she's ever read. She loves it. Like, she loves this book. And I've tried to start it a million times, but it's really slow, and it's kind of confusing. And, like, there's so many different names. It's like one of those fantasy books where there's different names, kind of like Game of Thrones, but you can't really keep up with it. So honestly, it sounds kind of silly that the maze or prison or whatever is alive. I mean, that actually is kind of cool. I'd rather reread The Maze Runner if I'm going to be looking about a prison maze. So, yeah. This next one I'm only getting rid of because I have a hardback version, and that's Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is one of my favorite books, so I'm not getting rid of it. I just have the hardback version, so I don't need 2 copies. So, I'm not getting rid of it. For real. This next one I'm getting rid of is Wake by Elisa McMahon, and I was so excited to find this at one of my used bookstores because I'd heard a lot of things about it and I've been looking for it ever since I saw Christine's first bookshelf tour, and I was like, hey, that's a book. Hey, Christine's read it. So I wanted to, well, did she? I don't even know if she read it, but I don't even know what it's about. It's something about dreams, and I genuinely don't care. Plus, I have other things that I'd rather read. That's what this is. This is cleaning out my mentality that there's other things that I'd want to read rather than this. I have a million books on my TBR, and unfortunately this is not one of them that I'm like excited about. The next book I'm going to get rid of is All Our Pretty Songs by Sarah McCarry, and I'm kind of considering this, but I feel like if I was really excited to read it, I would have already done it, because I bought this off Book Outlet. It was really cheap, and I know that there's like a really cool guy in it, and that this is like musical, it's like musical paranormal. I might be keeping this one. Tell me down below if you like it. It's a beautiful cover, but it has a really interesting premise. I just haven't started it, and I don't know if I ever will, is the problem. So I don't know. I'm still considering that one. I'm considering Fire, Bitter Blue, and I don't even know what it's called. All Our Pretty Songs. And the next one I'm getting rid of, I'm dead set on, is Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. I bought this because I was like, you know, I'm gonna read that. Lots of people read that. Vampires are a thing. Then I bought it, and then it sat on my shelf, and sat on my shelf, and sat on my shelf. And I just, like, and then I started it and got to like page 70, and I just wasn't very interested. I think it's an interesting premise, but I didn't really like the writing. I thought it was a little bit immature, so I'm just not interested. I don't really like vampires, to be honest, that are like modern. I like old vampires, like actual Dracula and stuff. That's really cool, but that's just kind of stupid to me. Plus the main character was really annoying. She was just, I don't even know. Okay, Whitney, please don't get mad at me. Shatter me. I gave the first book to my friend last night. My two friends were sleeping over, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do an unhaul. They were like, right now? And I was like, yes, I need to do it. And my friend was like, oh, I'll take Shatter Me. And I was like, you know, fine. I just don't like this series all that much. There's Unite Me, the novella, Unravel Me, and Ignite Me. And I don't care. The only reason why I would keep these is because these are beautifully written. I've only read the first two, and then the novella. I haven't read Ignite Me, but I don't plan to. And like, there's other things that I'd like to read. And I'm sorry, like the first book I gave like 4 or 5 stars on Goodreads, but I didn't really like the main character. I didn't think it was an interesting premise because I'd read things similar to that before, just like, you know, like A Lethal Touch or whatever. I haven't read anything about that, but just, you know, similar in the fact that it's, you know, a dystopian, and I didn't like the main character, but the writing was stellar. Absolutely beautiful. And do not get me wrong on that one. The next book I'm going to get rid of is Something Like Hope by Sean Goodman, and I just recently read this book for Cramathon, and I gave it 3 stars. It's not that I didn't like it at all. It's a very, very difficult book. It's very rough, very hard. I have a trigger warning for rape, abuse, self-harm, I think, suicide, and just general violence, kind of like that. And I don't like really heavy books like that. It was well done, but I just, you know, I'm not going to read it again. It wasn't my favorite, so there's really no reason for me to keep it, because I could get a little bit of money off of it and then buy a book or a CD that I actually want, because they have CDs at this bookstore, and I'm starting to collect my favorite band's albums. Never mind. The next book I'm getting rid of is I Kill the Mockingbird by Paula Campora, and I did read this, and I gave it like 3 stars or something. I thought it was going to be kind of funny, because I thought I was going to be making fun of To Kill a Mockingbird, which was not my favorite book by any means. So I was a little bit disappointed to find out that they were actually really excited about it and were promoting it, and I was like, no. I read it. I like skimmed the last half. It just wasn't a favorite of mine. It's a really cute cover, and I think it had a lot of potential. And I'm not saying I didn't like it. It's just, you know, when am I gonna reread this? Why is it here? I don't need it. I don't need it. It's okay, Margaret. It's okay to get rid of books. It's okay. It's hard, but it's okay. And these last 2 I have thought about and thought about and thought about over and over and over. And I'm putting my foot down. And it is the first 2 books in the Tiger's Curse series by Colleen Houck. Is that right? I don't really care. Okay, story time with Margaret. I read about halfway through this and was loving it. The Indian mythology and the characters. I was absolutely dead set that this was the best book I've ever read in my entire life. Okay, well, not really, but I really loved it. So then about halfway through, I went to the bookstore to go get the sequel. I just broke the rule, the very first rule of any book buyer is that you do not buy the sequel before you're done with the first one. Because that cannot lead anywhere good most of the time. And it didn't this time either. Because then I started to get bored about 3/4 of the way through. Started getting confusing and the main character started annoying me because I thought she was being really stupid and she was such an idiot. She was just a little airhead. And I was like, just shut up. And then this one, I mean, I didn't even finish this one, so why would I keep this one? I'm considering keeping this one, but I'm definitely getting rid of this one. But then I'm like afraid I'm going to reread this one. You know, no. I'm not going to reread it one day. I'm putting my foot down. I'm getting rid of it. That's okay. New books. I just hit my camera. I'm sorry. New books. Okay. So everybody, that was my unhaul. Tell me down below if you have read any of these and if you have liked them and you might be able to convince me to keep them. The ones I'm thinking about keeping that I want your input on are Fire and Bitter Blue, All Our Pretty Songs, and that's it. That's really the only three I'm considering keeping, but just let me down below. Just let me know down below. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.